All right, good night, everybody. Welcome to tonight's webinar. I'm hopping on a few minutes early because I just want to do some housekeeping stuff and get that out of the way before we dive into tonight's content. So I'm not sure just yet how many people are seeing us live, but if you're watching live, I want you to let me know that you can hear me okay. There's really not much to see. You're just going to see my photo on the screen, but I want to make sure that you can at least hear and you can see that photo on the screen and everything is well. Hi, Avi. I'm not sure if you're seeing me yet, Avi, but welcome to the group. So how do you let me know what's happening? I need you to go over to the Facebook group. So if you are watching the video right there on that page, just below the video, there is a blue button that says ask a question and join the conversation. Click on that button. It will take you over to Facebook. If you are already a member of the group, you can go ahead and post a comment and let me know that you can hear and see okay. If you are not a member, just go ahead and request to join. I'll make sure that you are added to the group and you can engage in tonight's conversation. It's going to be a very exciting webinar. I'm always thrilled every time we get the opportunity to come together like this and join in and hear from some phenomenal experts as they share with us on their experience in business, their years of growing a business, and how they can help all of us to build better businesses, have a bigger reach, and have a bigger impact in the world. So it's going to be a fantastic training session. If you are hearing me, please go ahead, let me know in the Facebook group that you can hear okay. How do you get to the Facebook group? Just below the video, there is a blue button that says ask a question. Go ahead and click on that button. It's going to take you over to Facebook and it will allow you to comment that you can hear and see. Thank you so much, Karen. I see that comment. Karen, also let me know if you can post a fresh post in the group. I want to make sure you can also do that so we can see your questions quickly. Okay, I see tons of requests coming in now. I'm going to approve you all. Welcome Suzanne, Chantal, Kenisha, Tamika, and Latoya to tonight's webinar. I'm approving all of you to join in the community now. Go ahead and let me know that you all can hear and see me okay. What you want to do to make sure that you have the best quality stream tonight is you want to shut down every other window except the one that you're using to watch this video and the one that has your Facebook group. That's going to make sure you don't have too many things that are demanding the power of your laptop, your phone, your computer. It's going to make sure that you're able to give the maximum amount of resources to watching this class so it will allow the video to run smoothly. So let me know and comment in the group that you can hear and see just fine. And so we can dive into tonight's content. We are now at 7 o'clock on the hour and we're going to do our usual welcomes before we dive into the content. So I'd love to hear who you are, where you're from, and what do you do. So you can post that quickly in the group to let us know who you are, where you're from, and what do you do. Thank you, Antoinette, for commenting that you can see and hear. Welcome to tonight's class. So I'm going to give about 30 seconds more just for you guys to catch up with my audio, and I want you to just comment. Let me know. Welcome, Bridget. Welcome, Marcia. Welcome, Cherise. I'm approving you to join the group now. Welcome to tonight's webinar. Excited to have you here. I want you to go ahead. Thank you, Tamika, for letting me know. Thank you, Elizabeth, that you can hear. Good evening to you, my love, that you are logged in. I'm excited to have you as a part of the class. So go ahead. Let me know who you are, where you're from, and what you do. We have several women from all across Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados that have registered for tonight's class. I'm excited about meeting all of you. And very women from different industries, different skill levels, different backgrounds. We want to hear from you. This is not just an opportunity for you to learn, it's also an opportunity for you to network. So don't sit quietly. Your business grows the best when you start to engage in the conversations with the right people and develop the right relationships. Marcia says she's not hearing. Good evening. I can hear loud and clear. Great, Latoya. Fantastic. Okay, let me just do a quick comment to Marcia. So I'm just going to have her refresh her page. Okay, awesome. So everybody's popping in. Okay, we are cooking with gas. Welcome Tamiko. Welcome Shar. I'm adding you to the group now. Welcome to tonight's class. Excited to have you here. We are going to get started officially in just about 30 more seconds. I want to acknowledge you as you join tonight. So we have Cherise, who is from Kingston, Jamaica. Hi, Cherise. Good evening. And she's a geomatics engineer. Great to have you, Cherise. Hi, Desiree. Glad to have you tuned in. Good evening. Chantal says she's a Netcom Computer Solutions Specialist from Old Harbor. Welcome, Chantal. Great to have you here. Kingston, recent graduate of UTech. Great to have you here, Kanisha. All right, we have a couple more flooding in. Let me just and welcome you before we dive in. Oh, perfect. Marcy, you can hear now. I'm happy to hear. Welcome, Shan. Great to have you in. Next class. All righty. So it's clear that I think everyone can hear and see, and we are good to go. Hi, Jessica. Welcome. Great to see you, Jessica, that you are hearing. Not sure you're seeing. Jessica, all that's on the screen right now is my photo. You're going to see some slides in a minute. All right, perfect. Hi, Bridget, welcome. Hi, Latoya, welcome again. Perfect. Okay, so we are going to continue the introductions throughout tonight's webinar. We really want to have everybody fully engaged, networking and meeting each other. That's a part of what this community is about, for us to meet people, be introduced to each other, and see whether or not or what value we can bring to each other. We Connect in Jamaica and now We Connect in the Caribbean has been hosting webinars now for several months. And these webinar series are focused, if you missed the beginning, these series are focused on helping women entrepreneurs grow sustainable businesses, and sustainable businesses that are not just based locally, but sustainable businesses that are also able to attract and do business in international markets. And so this is another webinar in that series that's happening tonight, and we have a phenomenal expert who I'm going to introduce to you shortly. As you know, tonight's topic is about doing business in the UK. So We Connect, you're going to learn a little bit more at the end of the webinar exactly what We Connect International is all about, and specifically We Connect in the Caribbean. And you're going to understand just why this organization exists within the Caribbean and how the organization can help you as a woman entrepreneur in establishing a solid business or expanding your existing business from where you are right now. So without further ado, we're now 5 minutes past the hour. We will have others who will join the class as we dive into tonight's webinar. But I want to now introduce our main speaker for tonight, and then afterwards we will have an opportunity for questions and answers, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about We Connect International, our phenomenal leader, the founder, or not the founder of We Connect, the lead of We Connect in the Caribbean, who played a big role in making sure that We Connect was established here within Jamaica first and the Caribbean at large, and her name is Mrs. Yannick Page. We're going to talk about why that mission was important to her, and we will probably hear from her tonight at the end of the webinar. So let me introduce tonight's speaker. Are you excited? I hope you are, because it's going to be great. So tonight we have with us Mrs. Claudine Reid, who was voted as one of Britain's top 100 women entrepreneurs by the Real Business magazine in 2008. Claudine Reid is considered to be one of the most inspirational women of her time. In addition to her role as the director of the multi-award winning social enterprise, PJ's Community Service, providing services to enhance and transform communities by providing care, education, and enterprise support. Claudine is a trainer, a TV and radio show presenter, and if you just Google her name or look on YouTube, you'll see several of her appearances throughout the media, and trustee at a London-based radio station. Claudine's vast experience includes former Cabinet Office Social Enterprise Ambassador. She was appointed to the National Social Enterprise Expert Panel for Government Office of Civil Society. She's a panel member for the Prime Minister's nomination panel for Big Society Awards. She's also Vice Chair of Governors for a London Academy, former Chair of Governors for a London College for Girls, Department for Works and Pensions, Investor from HRH, the Queen for Services to Social Enterprise, and I could go on and on. She's happily married to Patrick Reed for 20 years with 2 children, 20 children. Claudia, what am I doing to you? With 2 children, 2 children aged 18 to 16. And I don't know about you, but I'm very excited about hearing from Claudine tonight, just spending some time Googling her and looking at her appearances and looking at the value she's been delivering for years on business, on social projects, on just what it took for her to grow her own brand and where she took it from and where it is today, the challenges and how she overcame them. And so please, if you haven't already, go ahead and grab your notebook and pen. Make sure that you have removed all your distractions and that you're ready to get focused on tonight's class. The important thing for you is to realize that when this information is coming at you, you are able to grab what's there for you and then have what you need to go and implement or take action on what you learned and what's new. So do not take tonight's session for granted because there was no fee for you to enter. It's a highly valuable 45 minutes worth of content. And if you want this to have an impact on you, if you want to see the results come out of this, if you want to see this help you go to the next level, be sure to take notes and be ready to take action. Pay attention, treat it like a college level class. So for now, I'm going to step back and I'm going to hand over to you, Claudine, so you can go ahead and take the wheel.
Thank you very much, Dana. I'm really, really pleased to be able to join you today live from London, England at 1:10 in the morning. I've been looking forward to this because it's really part of my passion. It's what I've been doing for the last 20 years, as you have already shared. It's the way how I've learned to do business. It's the way how I've learned to develop myself, to grow on a personal level, to grow on a business level, to grow on an intellectual level, and it's been absolutely phenomenal. So I really thank you and Yannick and the team behind you for allowing this to happen. And what I'd like to do in the time that I have is just share with you some key components really about doing business in the UK. I'll give you a brief history, an overview of my experience, and really I want to spend a significant amount of time talking about networks and how they really work in the UK. But I'm sure lots of this information will be interchangeable, so it's not exclusive to the UK. I'm sure there will be nuggets that you can take and use in the Caribbean or anywhere where you do business. I think business is an international language, and there are different things that we need to learn to pick up from across the different cultures. We're going to also be talking about how I've built my professional network over the last 20 years, which includes government, business-to-business relationships, business-to-consumer relationships, and then most importantly, how to maintain those relationships so that we can build businesses that last in legacy. Sustainability is very, very important, whichever continent that you find yourself on. And I think when I think of legacy, and when I speak to women in business, especially in the UK, when they think of legacy, they're generally talking about the next generation. Most times they're talking about their children and what can they hand down. And more than just a business, there is also some life lessons. There's work ethic, there's tenacity, there's some unspoken things that you're handing down in that legacy drive, about passion, about zest, about determination, about chutzpah. And so I really want to be able to pick up on some of those things as we're speaking today. So a little bit about me and my background.
Okay, one quick second, Claudine. I'm not seeing your slide, so if you should be seeing the slide now, I'm not seeing it yet. And I want to make sure that they don't miss out on that.
Okay, let's see what I need to do here. Can we see them now?
Not yet. It may take a little yep, we can see them now. And you can just
Yeah.
put it full screen and then we're good. Yep.
Fabulous. Okay.
Perfect.
So I've just run through the overview in terms of what we're going to be doing. And then in terms of my history background, I joined my company. It started in 1992 and I joined in 1995. Since that time, we've been providing services to both local and central government in the UK, really around, you're familiar with the term social innovation. And we created the very first shopping delivery service, grocery shopping delivery service to older people who are housebound and physically frail. Back then in 1992, it was a service that was way ahead of its time. I mean, the government absolutely loved it because it saved them money. It allowed them to redirect their resource into other places. And when you think about business in the UK or anywhere for that matter, there are always going to be different levels of inequality. There are gender issues, you know, people not wanting to do business with men or with women. There are age issues, not wanting to do business with people who are, you know, older or younger. But there are also race issues. But what I've learned over the last couple of years is that people buy solutions. And the more you're able to respond to a government or a country or a community or a city challenge and present that response in context of a solution, then all of a sudden the things that would potentially hold you back, color, gender, race, creed, ethnicity, they almost shrink because you're providing a solution. And it's upon that platform that we were able to build a business that in the last 20 years has employed over 2,000 people. In the last 20 years, you know, at our peak, we were turning over £2 million per year. It's with that we were able to purchase commercial properties. We were able to build a legacy of, you know, having some really great impacts in the community on numerous levels, working with young people who were excluded from school, working with ex-offenders, running a number of programs. Some large FTSE 100. FTSE 100 is our stock exchange, so we're working with companies on the stock exchange, just teaching them work ethic, teaching them about the power of social enterprise, which is our business model. So our social enterprise, for those of you who may not be familiar with the term, is simply a business that has social goals, and the surplus or the profit from the business is reinvested back into the organization to add value to the community or to our beneficiaries. It's a brilliant business model because it still allows the directors to receive a reasonable salary. But what's important to us, when I say us, I mean myself and Patrick, he's the other director, my husband. What's important to us is the impact, the legacy that we're able to have in the city, in the community, in the country. And now we're moving to continents and hoping to be able to take that best practice in terms of what we do. You'll see on the history and background, I received my investiture from His Royal Highness Prince Charles in 2008 for services to social enterprise, media appearances, and my pride and joy is my family, my son who starts university this September, my daughter hopefully starts university September next year, and they are very integral to everything that I do. So moving on quite swiftly, I put some key bite-sized nuggets here to try and add some context to our conversation in terms of what business in the UK looks like. With a population of around 64 million, and you know, we've had some major inroads around immigration, especially from Europe with the advent of the EU, and looking at what our borders look like, and with the EU different border regulations. We have a population increase at the moment, and what that actually means, we've got challenges with housing crisis, our infrastructure. But some of those things I've taught myself over the last 20 years that we should train our mind to see with our mind what other people miss with their eyes. And it's sometimes those things are most important when the government or politicians see challenges. As entrepreneurs, as business women, we should be in a position to see those challenges as opportunities. So when we look at the strong influence in the finance and the business sector, when we look at the dominant service sector, and England as being a major tourist destination in the world, London being the second most visited city in the world, as an entrepreneur, what do you pick up from those things? Where do you see opportunity? Where do you see the opportunity to be able to create something that you can see 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road that other people may not be able to see now? Train your mind to see what other people miss with their eyes. That becomes a very, very important in the development of business. As with any country, we still have challenges with poverty and deprivation. But again, it's those things. And I think it's an author by the name of Naomi Klein who talks about the shock doctrine, where different large multinational corporations have capitalized on different countries' natural disasters. But what we've learned to do is look at poverty and deprivation and look at how can we add value or decrease social injustice by bringing about social innovations and at the same time generate an income from doing so. In the UK, we have some of the world's best educational institutions, just like you do in Jamaica with the University of the West Indies. And we're looking at how can we then think about how we frame all of those different spheres of influence in society. And when we look at spheres of influence, we're looking at government, we're looking at politics, we're looking at the economy in terms of business, we're looking at education, arts, media, culture, family, and of course the church that gives us our moral compass. And it's upon that framework that we've been able to have a look at how do we then make inroads into those respective spheres of influence. How do we make inroads in order to our businesses and our organizations? And one key insight that I'd like to share with you, and I'm sure that you've come across this in your work, is the importance of networks and how powerful they are. So here I am right now at 1 a.m., gone 1 a.m. in the morning, but yet I've been able to spend the last 5 years, the last couple of months networking with colleagues in the Caribbean, but the last 5 years networking purposefully and focused with colleagues across Europe. And what those networks have allowed me to do is bring my level of visibility for my business up a level, now to a European level, and now in June when I come to the Caribbean to spend some time developing those networks, then to a Caribbean level. And what that looks like, I'll give you just a very quick example. Last year I ran a conference in capital city of Holland. I connected with some senior government ministers out there, and I took the best practice that I had learnt and developed and had implemented it from the UK, and shared some of that best practice with these senior politicians. And in return, what they asked me to do was help them write a proposal to run the same programs that I had run in the UK, to run those same programs in Holland. That's the power of networking. What you're able to do is take what you've done and turn your good work, if you like, turn your outcomes into something that will help somebody else and make it fit for purpose based on their respective environment. So how do you make programs that work in the Caribbean, or how do I make programs that work in the UK? How do I make them fit for purpose in in another terrain, in another territory. And part of that is going to be about understanding the culture of the time. Part of it's going to be about understanding the economy, understanding the media networks, understanding what's important in those respective sectors, understanding what the deprivation or poverty indices or drivers are, and being able to reframe or repackage our best practice or your best practice so that it works out in those respective countries. I've learned that the door to opportunity is marked P-U-S-H. The door to opportunity is marked P-U-S-H. And what's very, very interesting about that is that you've got to be able to see opportunities, and opportunities, hard work. It is that's just it. But you can only leverage those opportunities when you roll up your sleeves and really get stuck in. And so the first insight that I really want to hone in on is that networks are very important, and the skill is yours to make it powerful. The skill is yours to be able to share those best practice ideas. And I know in most communities we have a very similar challenge in the UK, that sometimes people don't always want to share their vision. They don't always want to share their idea for fear of somebody who has more clout, for an organization that has a bit more power behind them, abusing or taking advantage of their ideas. And I think that's where your discernment comes in terms of being able to understand, see an opportunity, and how to nurture that, what that potential opportunity could look like. I learned the hard way. A couple of years ago, we had a major organization, one of the large supermarkets, that wanted to buy my company. And very naively, I shared with them all of my insights, all of my research, all of my key customer information. And I was excited at the time, but very naive. And it so turned out that they backed out and didn't want to buy the company anymore. Way, they stole all of our ideas and started up exactly the same business that we had, and it was really quite demotivating and deflating. But remember, I said, see with your eyes, see with your mind rather, see with your mind what other people miss with their eyes. And even in that adverse or challenging situation right there, we were able to come out on top and use our intellectual property to get the best out of a bad situation. So I wouldn't say clamp down and don't speak. I'd say make sure you speak to the right people. I'd say make sure you put protection mechanisms in place, ensure that there's a memorandum of understanding, ensure that you've protected your ideas and copyrighted where appropriate, and make sure that you partner with the right type of people and get the correct information that will help catapult you to the next business. Because the beginning is the half of every action. And when I think about it now, if we didn't have that opportunity, I really wouldn't be able to sit here and have these types of conversations with you and share some of my learning with you. So the second insight that I want to share with you about doing business in the UK is really about building your professional networks, and really the basis of your professional network is going to be about trust. And again, I'm sure all of these things that I'm sharing are very much interchangeable, but there needs to be a mutual concern or shared goals. Your shared goals, regardless of the country that you're operating in, regardless of the city or the community that you're working with, your shared goals are really what bring you together. Your shared goals or your mutual concern is the thing that drives the vision. It's the thing where you're able to see ahead of time and find some common ground, find some commonality, so that you can build on those things, that you can strengthen that relationship based on the drive, based on that vision or that mutual concern. There's something to be said about keeping to commitments, and I like to rephrase that as saying under promise and over deliver. In the UK, they're very strong on keeping to commitments. If you say you're going to do it, then do it within a set time frame. operating within the set time frame sows an element of distrust. And if trust is the currency of business, it's the currency of relationships, it's the currency of moving ahead in the right networks that you want to be able to connect with. So keep into commitments, and it's best, if you're not 100% sure, then under promise. Over delivering always positions you well. It always positions you to look good. And ultimately, on any continent, that's exactly what you want to do. Open communication is always best. Let's be clear. Let's understand the culture of the terrain that we're dealing with, the culture of the people that we're dealing with, understanding different understanding time zones is very clear, for example, understanding a firm handshake, understanding what eye contact means, understanding the best way to present a business card. Open communication also speaks of how do you present yourself in the best light in order for those who you potentially want to do business with to be able to have that trust relationship. Active collaboration is also very important. 9 times out of 10, people want to know what you're bringing to the table. They want to know, they're buying into you, they're buying into your personality, they're buying into your results, your ability to activate something great. That's what they're buying into. So really, when you're building your professional network, you want to know the mutual concern or the shared goals from both parties. What are we all bringing to the table in order to have the best result? And we do this with a long-term perspective in mind. The long-term perspective says, where are we going to be in 5 years? Where are we going to be in 10 years? Where are we going to be in 15 years? And what are the steps or the methodology that's going to take us to that destination? So when you're talking then about your strategy, your short-term goals, your mid-term goals, and your long-term goals, how are you going to take bite-sized steps to get there? It's almost like this famous saying that says, can you eat an elephant? And the answer is yes, 1 bit at a time, in small pieces. The interesting thing here is, regardless of the continent that we're on, regardless of the country, regardless of the city or the community, under the clock, we are all equal. We all have 24 hours within our time frame to operate and get the best out of what we're able to deliver. So that therefore means, in terms of building the professional network, then we're going to have to be very smart and very wise with our time. And when we're looking at personal development and looking at reprioritizing those things that are important, and that becomes key, especially if we have families to deal with, and what I like to refer to as the balancing act. As female entrepreneurs, I'm sure many of you have families or children that you have to look after. Some are in a position where they have older relatives to look after. They operate across multiple spheres of influence. They're active in other community groups outside of their entrepreneurial business. And so you still only have a 24-hour time frame. So your priority is going to be very, very important. Understanding the difference between urgent and important is going to become very, very important in terms of building your professional network, and knowing what you can delegate to somebody else and knowing what you can actually do. What do I have to do, or what can I delegate to somebody else to do in order to get the best return? Now, this does take into consideration the team who you have around you. At the moment, I had around 100 staff, and it was part of my responsibility to make a skills assessment of everyone in my team and see who could I best position to help take the organization forward in the best. Now, since I've restructured my organization and reassessed my profitability ratios and downsized somewhat. Even though we've downsized, my profitability has increased. I now have a team of around 35, and I'm able to place that team, place individuals rather, in that team in the best possible place, so that they're able to replicate me. They're able to replicate my work ethic, my integrity, my vision and value for the organization, so that even in my absence, my organization still stands. Even in my absence, the strategy that I've put in place still stands. Even in my absence, there is not a skills deficiency, because we've had an excellent opportunity to lay the foundation and build a professional network and build a lasting legacy. That really, first point that I mentioned about mutual concern, that's ultimately what people are buying into. They're buying into your value. They're buying into your vision. Where do you see your organization, the impact that you're able to make over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? If you're talking about maximizing shareholder benefits, how can you maximize your shareholders' bottom line over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? How can you maximize your community impact and decrease social inequalities over the next 20 years? That's really what people are buying into. And when you look at now the millennials, in terms of generation X, Y, and Z, they're very high on social values. They want to work or be part of organizations that are adding value, giving something back. If you think about the service industry now, and many of the coaches and high profile organizations and some of the top foundations, many people are talking about giving back. Everybody has this element of giving back to their community, because they feel that this is their way of contributing on a higher level. It's what Maslow, a scientist, talks about, meeting self-actualization needs and being able to contribute at a higher level. Building your professional networks takes into account these 5 key elements, and there are others, but I think those ones are most important at this stage. So when we look at insight number 3, how do we then maintain relationships with my network, and how do you make that network work? I've put an acronym here for trust, and I said this already with insight number 2. But be transparent, be as clear as you possibly can. If there are things that you're not sure of, if there are things that you don't know, if there are things that are difficult to interpret given the context or given the environment or given the access to resource that you have, just be transparent about where you are. It allows your network to be able to make a better assessment of their input into the bigger picture or the vision, and also make a proper assessment on the resource that they're willing to allocate. Be responsive. Again, it's repeating what we said from insight number 2. But when we're talking about being responsive, we're also talking about your personal development aspirations. The adage is true that you can't give what you haven't got. So there's going to need to be an element of drive, something that's developed internally, your internal drive, your internal determination, your internal tenacity, your passion for progress, your passion for ambition, your passion for success, your passion for confidence, your passion for determination, being caring and demonstrating your ability to communicate those key things that are often unspoken but can be seen in your conduct. Being sincere, again, unspoken terminology, same as trustworthy, unspoken terminology, but those are the unspoken things that your business networks are looking at to determine whether or not they come back to do business with you, whether or not they come back and make your business relationship long term. Have you ever had a conversation with somebody that says something like, I'd like to do business with you, and that business transaction is a one-off transaction? versus somebody who comes to you and has a conversation that says, I'm looking for a long-term business relationship. A long-term business relationship is based on trust. It's based on transparency, responsiveness, that caring attitude, that sincerity, and that trustworthiness. Those are the things that I found that over the last 20 years has allowed me to enter educational institutions, do business with media institutions, do business with government, do business with other business organizations, because there's an element of trust there. Those are the things that I found have helped me maintain my business network and make those networks work. Insight number 4, and I kind of alluded to this already, about using the power of vision. I started my business in 1992. The business started in 1992 and I joined in 1995. At that time, we were operating just in the community in my small town of Croydon, where we have around a population of 360,000 people in the community of Croydon. For 10 years, we worked solely in the community, bringing social innovation. We worked across education. We were working with young children who were at risk of exclusion from mainstream education. We worked with vulnerable adults. We worked with those who were ex-offenders and wanting to reintegrate into the community after serving custodial sentences in the criminal justice system. It was the power of vision and the results that we were able to leverage from the impact of our work at a community level that allowed us to take those results and take it to the city. So when we started working across London, across Nottingham, across Birmingham, those are other major cities in the UK, when we were able to replicate the work that we were doing, of the good work, we were able to leverage more opportunities and grow the business, grow our network, grow the impact of our work, grow our visibility, which then led us to impacting the country. When we began impacting the country, my favorite book, one of my favorite books, says, Kings will be drawn to the brightness of your rising. Because of the impacts that we had in the community, and this is all about the power of vision, because of the impact that we had in the city, we were then able to make that natural progression and operate across the country. And now, over the last 5 years, we've been working across, we had our first international conference in Spain, working with a small community in Malaga, helping them to develop entrepreneurial activity and develop their businesses. Last year, we were in Amsterdam, in Holland, again, working with a Surinamese community, making connections with governments, making connections with universities out there, to have the same level of opportunity. And this year, in June, next month, I'll be coming to Jamaica from the 14th to the 20th, running my international conference, which is called Women on the Front Line. Women on the Front Line speaks to women who are operating across different spheres of influence in society. So they operate in governments, they operate in the education system, they are involved in media, they are involved in arts and culture, they are family orientated, they are mothers, they are grandmothers, they are aunties, they're cousins, they are members of local churches, they are entrepreneurs. More importantly, they are at the front line of their respective spheres of influence. And the whole purpose of Women on the Front Line is about connecting women across communities, cities, countries, and continents to develop their entrepreneurial proclivities. It's about exploring strategies for growth. It's about looking at, what do you do in your community, your city, your country, your continent, and how can we explore strategies and synergies and take that best practice and replicate it in another community, city, country, or continent. But more importantly, what that replication does is allows visibility, it allows credibility, and it allows growth for those respective countries, for those respective entrepreneurs. Bottom line here is about increasing entrepreneurial activity and increasing your social impact across all of those different areas, across the community, across the city, across the country, and across the continent. So from the 14th to the 20th of June, I'll be in Jamaica. We have events at the residence of the British High Commissioner. We've partnered with Mandeville Business Women's Forum and the Jamaica Junior Achievers Association. Will be having an event at the Montego Bay Chamber of Commerce, and we're hoping to connect with entrepreneurs across the island to share strategies of growth, to explore synergies. How can we partner? How can we bring what you have to the UK? How can we bring what we have in the UK to Jamaica? Or expand those opportunities. Next year, we'll be taking the same conference, the same concept to Ghana in Africa. And then in 2018, we're having plans and we're in discussions at the moment to take the same discussions, the same people to Hong Kong, yes, Hong Kong in Asia, to be able to explore strategies and synergies for growth. Ultimately, this is about making an impact in the community and leaving a legacy for the next generation. And so my interest really is about seeing how far our impact can be. Famous saying says, to whom much is given, much is required. And over the last 20 years, as I've built upon my knowledge base, as I've increased my confidence, as I've increased my levels of competence, I realize that I've been building on a capacity of more. And as more comes to my table or to my plate, it's incredible that I can see the impact that I've been able to make. And it's just such an amazing feeling to be able to provide jobs for people. It's an amazing feeling to help people become more educated so they can in turn impact their families and their communities. It's really an amazing feeling to help contribute to society in this particular way. I've left for you all of my contact details. I'd love for you to connect with me on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook. My website is my name, claudinereid.co.uk. And I do have a free gift for those of you who have connected today on my website, which is www.claudinereid.co.uk. You can download my free ebook, which is called Daily Strategies, 365 Strategies for Personal and Organizational Advancement. My hope is that you will take one strategy per day for the next 365 days and apply that strategy to your personal life, to your organization, and hopefully it will contribute to the advancement that you're looking for. It will contribute to the impact that you're wanting to make in your respective spheres of influence. At this time, I'd like to open up for any questions.
Oh, that was good, Claudine. That was some good content. Ladies, go ahead, ask your questions. I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure you need to have questions right now. Claudine is here on this webinar. She's made herself available. We are going to give her grace. It's now almost, 2 a.m. there, Claudine. We're going to give her grace, but she has made herself available for questions. So now that we do have her on the line, do not miss the opportunity to take advantage of the time you have with her and pick her brain. So let's see. If you want to know how to answer questions, I'm not going to go through some of the comments that you guys have made, but how do you ask questions? If you're watching the video, there's a blue button just below the video. Click on that blue button. It's going to take you over to Facebook. If you are already a member of the group, just go right ahead and post your question. If you're not a member, go ahead and request access and I'll get you approved immediately. Oh, that's awesome, small world. So Henika is a perfect example of networking, and you never know when you're going to meet somebody that could be a valuable asset in your network. Henika says, I must say the world is becoming smaller. I met Claudine online. We began engaging, then she joined several of my Patois chat and attended and spoke at my book launch via Skype. Now I'm listening in on her webinar, looking forward to actually meeting when she gets here next month, doing business in the UK. That's awesome, Henika. What a great demonstration of you putting what you just spoke about into practice, Claudine. That's great. Let's see. Okay, so I see where Claudine is going through and making her comments. If you have questions, guys, go ahead and post your question so that we can have Claudine answer those for you quickly. I'll say though, Claudine, one of the things that stood out to me is about focusing on your impact and being valuable. We always sometimes are looking for opportunities. How can I get the opportunity to grow? How can I get the opportunity to be in a bigger space? What do I need to do to be there? And it just jumped out at me strongly to make sure that wherever you are right now, be valuable right here. Make an impact right in your small space, because that is the impact that will open doors for you in other spaces, because you can then say, here are the results I created, and here are my ideas, and here's a discussion around how I can take these results and create the same results in your community, in your area. We're talking about the UK today, but it could technically be anywhere else if we focus first on being valuable and creating results right where we are.
Absolutely, and I think that's been my experience. My impact in the community, city, country, and continent was all based on what I did in my small community. You know, when you think about my community, the town where I live, 360,000 people, I impacted them first. Let me rephrase. I impacted a small amount of people in that community first. And it was that I turned into a case study that I was able to take up a level and present that to the city. When I began impacting the city, I could take it up a level and impact the country. Then when I've impacted the country, I can take it up a level and then begin to impact different continents. But it started in my tiny community. And I think sometimes it's almost like we want to have a bigger impact. We want to run before we can walk. And so operating in your community, it's almost like what I said earlier on. One of my favorite books says, kings will be drawn to the brightness of your rising. When you make that impact, the testimonials and the people that you impact begin to talk about what you've done. They begin to then raise the profile of your credibility. When you have other people talking about your impact, that's when you're able to make better leverage. If that makes sense. It's so much better to have your clients talking about the impact of your work than you talking about your work. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yes, it does. Because people receive it differently. If you are just, tooting your own horn, it could be just you, saying that you're great because you want people to see you great. But when your clients can celebrate the results you help them to create, then people can begin to connect with that and say, okay, if you did it there, you can probably do it here. Okay, just to quickly go through some questions as they flood in. Suzanne asks, which networks in the UK would you recommend joining for arts and culturally based business? You did follow up to say what you mean by culturally based. So Suzanne, please go ahead and post that. We'd love to dive into that a little bit more. Okay. Suzanne Beadle asks, what advice do you have for building a performing arts-based business specifically? You want to attack that one?
Yeah.
Claudia?
Yes, that's a really interesting question. When you say performing arts, in terms of advice, some of the best things that we've done in the UK was start with young people. They're full of energy, they're full of zest, they're full of great ideas. They're full of energy, they're full of creative innovations, and they tend not to see the limits that the adults will see. But more importantly, I found that adults, or parents in particular, are always interested when their children are happy. Performing arts business. I had about 5 music recording studios on my site, and I used engaging activities. Number one, to engage the children, but because it engaged the children, by default, the parents came. So the parents would buy into whatever we were offering. We were offering after schools program. We were offering programs during the term time. We were offering educational programs around performing arts. We were offering entrepreneurial programs around performing arts. But as we were able to make that offering, we were building the business at the same time. The clients were the children. Sorry, the beneficiaries were the children, but the paying clients were their parents. And of course, every parent knows another friend whose children want to access the services that we were offering. So I'd start, if I was going to build another performing arts business, or I'd start off with the children. At the same time, I'd connect with some of the key influencers in the community. Definitely get the media involved. For every showcase that you do, for every good news story that you have, make sure the media are on board. For every good news story of transformation, ensure that the politicians are involved. I remember one particular year, and I invited the chief police. So the chief police in our respective areas called the borough, he's referred to as the borough commander. I invited the borough commander to a showcase that we had put on. He was so impressed with the young people that the following year he came and asked he asked me if I could write a business case so he could fund my following year's program.
Wow.
Because I dared to step out of the box and invite him. You know, who wants to invite the police to to a program? But really, when you look at it from their perspective, why would you invite the police? You'd invite the police because their main concern is about the decrease of crime and crime prevention. I was showing the police that if I'm able to engage young people, then it would decrease the crime rate in the respective area. If I invite politicians, my narrative will change. I would be saying to politicians, you've got issues of deprivation, you've got issues of low educational attainment, you've got issues of truanting. I can use these educational programs to connect with the young people right where they are. My politicians then become interested in what I'm doing because I'm feeding into their objectives or their sort of manifesto pledge promises that they're going to be upholding. So now again, my event or my business becomes their case study. When my business becomes their case study, they're going to be quoting me for every speech that they're going to make. If they're quoting me or my organization in their speeches, it increases my level of visibility. As it increases my visibility, then people are going to start going online and looking at social media and finding out what's going on with Claudine's company, PJ's Community Services, and how is she impacting the community.
Okay, you said like 10 million worth of valuable content. Just I could have paid for what you just said. Because and sometimes we can miss it. So we listen to these webinars and we're in an environment like this, and in just a simple answer like that, we could miss the weight of the value that you just delivered. You made mention, how do you start? In answer to her question, how do you start a new performing arts company? And a lot of what you said could be applied to several businesses. And the key ones I noted were start where you are, start delivering value amongst the community that you're in. You went back to that, look at the impact you can make. You started with the young people in the community and the impact you could make with them and how the parents would be pulled into that. But where it becomes even more transferable is when you went to get into the media. And I'm repeating this so you guys can make sure that you grab these notes. Get into the media. We did another webinar like this with Danielle Terry Long from DRT Communications, and she specializes in PR. And it was about how do you become your own PR? How do you get yourself in the media? Because PR is what will begin to give you low cost or zero cost exposure. Once you're in the media and people are talking about it, instantly people want to be affiliated with you. And a part of how you get yourself in the media is what you said about how you were linking with the police. invite influencers, invite the media personnel, but understand what's important to them. Don't just think about what's important to you and the fact that you need them there. Understand what value you bring to them. You mentioned this earlier, Claudine. Know what value you bring to the network so that the network can look and want to be affiliated with you and want to sow back into you and want to give to you, because what you're doing is strongly linked to what they are doing. So be mindful of that. So I hope you guys got those major points. The two big ones: get in the media, and in doing that, be bold in your invite the influencers, but know what's important to them when you do. Guys, that's the class right there. Okay, Jessica asks, my biggest challenge is building my network. The fear that what I offer is not what is wanted can be a barrier. How do you suggest dealing with that?
That's a really interesting question. Sometimes I found that we offer what we want, not what the people want. And remember, we, the business owner, we're not the client. So it's important to do your research and find out, what do your customers want? What are they demanding? What are they asking you to supply? And you could start off by running a small pilot scheme and finding out from that perspective. So find out before you heavily invest resource in something big and broad. Just start small, do your research, find out what the customers are saying, find out what the feedback has said, and make the necessary tweaks, and then start again until you find a place where actually you are able to offer that demand on a broader scale. I think the thing about fear is it does hold many people back. The fear of failure, the fear of making a mistake, that they are very crippling in business. But that's where your tenacity and your boldness has to come out. That's where your drive and your passion has to come out. As long as you've done your research and you know that there's a market for what you want, then push forward.
Oh, that's good. Okay, I had a question from Tamika. Okay, the questions are flooding in. She asked, have you ever experienced a loss of appetite in your passion? If so, what did you do to revive it?
Oh, wow. No is the short answer. I've never experienced a loss of appetite in my passion because I'll tell you what's very important, Tanisha. Your why is very important. Your why is the reason why you're doing this. Your why may change over time. So when I first started running my business 20 years ago, I actually wanted to be a business studies teacher. I wanted to run a business for 5 years so that I could go into the education system and be a teacher. That was 15 years ago. When I reached probably to the 5th year, I realized the freedom that I had. I realized that I have this staff and I don't have to. I go to work because I love my job, but I didn't have to go because I had created a system that operated with or without me. So then my reason for doing business changed. I did the business because what I was doing was buying my freedom. I was buying my time, if you understand the term. I was buying my ability to do what I want to do with the 24 hours per day that I've been allocated. So no, I've never, ever, ever had a loss of passion. And I think for those people who do have a loss of passion, go back to your why. Go back to your reason for doing this. Many people do business for their children, for the next generation, for their legacy. I understand that people do business because of money, but money can't be the driver. Needs money. Everybody has financial obligations, but money isn't the thing. Otherwise, you'll never have enough. You know, you win a contract, the contract has a 3-year or a 5-year term, then what happens at the end of that 5 years? You'll always be on a roller coaster type of emotion, and you don't want that in life. What you want is to know that your why has been met, your reason for doing it. You're able to you're able to work there. So I've never had a loss of passion because I'm very clear and very focused about why I'm doing what I'm doing. I wake up every morning focused and excited to start my day because I have freedom, and freedom is the reason why I run my business.
Juicy stuff. Okay, Kanisha says, okay, we are at, let me just press pause and respect your time, Claudine. We are at 2 a.m. Do you want us to close here, or can we do 2 more questions?
Yep, I can do 2 more questions.
Okay, let me see if I can pick the 2 best ones. Ooh, there are lots. Okay. This could help somebody. So, what network would you recommend to join in the UK? For example, a local tour company in Jamaica that's looking to expand in the Caribbean in the future, and I would assume obviously the UK. They do authentic Jamaican culture tours.
That's really interesting. Perhaps the Chamber of Commerce may be a good place to start. But let me tell you very quickly, last year I was doing business in Holland, in Amsterdam, and there's a lady, Jennifer Tosh. She runs it's called the Dutch Black Heritage Tour. And what she does is Black Heritage tours and shows you the history of the slave trade in Amsterdam, because Amsterdam had the first stock exchange that was built by slaves, and she takes you on this fantastic journey of the development of the slave trade. I mean, at the end of the tour, which was about half a day, she was crying. The people who came on the tour, they were crying, because it really was just an emotional experience. But how she connected with everybody was literally, how she built her business rather, was literally by building those platforms on social media and by connecting with the right networks. So the right networks were those people who are historians. They were interested in business by connecting with, again, I keep on referring back to these different spheres of influence in society, because I think it's so important for every entrepreneur to tap into them. But when you tap into those influences in society, tap into them from where they are, not from where you are. So if you're tapping into government, go to the government agenda and show government how your business contributes to their agenda. Tap into the education system and show the education system how your business taps into their agenda. Tap into the arts and culture sector and show them how your business fits into their agenda. The same for family, the same for church, the same for media, the same for the legal system, the same for the medical health profession. Show them what you're bringing, how it meets their objective. So when you're looking then at how do you break into a market, you're seeing from their perspective, and you can see me from where I am and answer my questions from me, then you'll always have a business. Cream always rises to the top.
That's good. Okay, all right, guys, please make sure that you access the replay once we end this class tonight. I'm going to leave the replay up for 48 hours. I'm going to try and grab one last question, and I think it's going to be a summary of what people have been asking. About 4 questions asked the same thing, and it's piggybacking pretty much on what you just said, Claudie. The question is about networks. Where do I find what network specifically that I can be a part of? Or how do I find communities that are related to what I do? They were more specific in the group, but I'm just asking it generally. What's a resource that we can use for digging into be a part of?
I did see that actually on the Facebook group, and I'd start with your area of expertise on the type of business that you're running, or the thing that you're looking for. If you're looking for arts based networks, if you're looking for educational based networks, if you're looking for medical based networks, wherever your area of expertise lies, I'd start with those types of networks. But I go back to my previous comment about tapping into institutions. So I lecture at Kingston University in the UK. I also work with different faith community groups. I also am a government advisor. I also am on the board of governors for different schools, colleges, and universities. For every area of expertise that the listeners are in, find those networks first, because what you'll have is an area of interest, an area of commonality. You'll have people who are at different levels within that network. So if you could measure the level that you are on a scale of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in that group, in that network, you'll have people who are at a higher level than others. So you'll be learning from them. Then when your knowledge base is going to be increased a level, you might want to connect with different types of people. But the one thing that I've learned is you'll connect with those networks who are doing similar things to you to develop your level of competency and understanding. But if you're looking for synergy, you may not find that in the same network. You might have to go to another network who does absolutely nothing to do with what you're doing. And the best example that I can show you of that is if you think about the technology behind a camera and a mobile phone. Many years ago, the two pieces of equipment were operating in two very different technological spaces. A smart person decided to put those two things together, the camera and the mobile phone, and create a smartphone. A brand new product has created its own space, but they were operating in two different spheres of influence. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So you don't have to go to the same network. If you're I don't know, if you're a doctor, you don't have to with other medics. If you're a teacher, you don't only have to network with other educators. Go to a different network and take your skill of medical health practitioner and connect with an entrepreneur, or take your skill of medical health and connect with an educator and design a teaching program. Mm-hmm. Don't compete with another doctor to design another medical health advancement, because cream always rises to the top and your idea may not be the best one. But if you operate in a different space, that's where innovation comes about. That's where it's about. And people are always buying into creativity and innovation. And if you're the first one to do it, you become the expert. You become the subject matter expert in doing that. Who was the first person who thought of putting the camera and a mobile phone together? And now we've got Wi-Fi on our phones. Now we've got all these apps being created. Now we've got the digital age. Every continent that I've been to, they might not have any food, but they've got a mobile phone. Mm-hmm. When you think about now, one of the challenges that we have in the UK, people, refugees fleeing from their countries, their mobile phone is paramount to their survival. Mm-hmm. It's that network that they're able to survive on. But my point about the mobile phone is that it was operating many years ago in a very different space. It was only a phone, but now it's connected to a camera. So if you are operating in a culturally based business, you're operating in tourism, you're operating in education, you're operating in arts and culture, you're involved with government, you're involved with the church, take what you have, your level of expertise, and take it into a different sphere of influence and repackage what you have. So it becomes valuable in a different network. Now you have credibility in two spaces: your original level of competence, or your original area of expertise, and the other area that you break into.
That is good, Claudine. That is really good. And it takes us back to one of the points you made at the beginning that really hit me, and I posted it in the group. See with your mind what other people miss with their eyes.
Absolutely. I love that. I'll tell you why I love that, because 15 years ago, we purchased a derelict building. And when I say derelict, I mean there were trees growing through the roof, there were trees growing under the ground. And over a 5 to 8 year period, we invested the surplus of our business to renovate that building. And we built music recording studios, we built a children's day nursery, we built a community space, I built my offices there. But before we started building, we asked our friends and some other business colleagues to join us in this level of investment, and they said no. 15 years later, last year rather, we sold that for in excess of the original asking price. It had appreciated in value. And my point was that when you have something that you're able to see differently, you're able to have a different level of impact, you're able to grow differently, you're able to leave your mark in the community, in the city, in the country, and now take that learning to help impact other people.
See with your mind what other people miss with their eyes. That is definitely a meditation point for me coming out of today's class. Claudine, you have definitely over-delivered in my eyes. The content that you shared with us tonight, I'm so grateful that we had the opportunity to share this platform with you. We all got to sit down and listen and to soak in what you have spent so many years acquiring. There is by no means we could have gotten all of the information that we could have gotten from you. We had a short space of time, but I do want to say thank you. Thank you for making yourself available to share with us. Thank you for teaching at the level that you did. Thank you for doing it at 2 a.m. in the morning. We are very grateful. We're very grateful for that. And I see you sharing in the group. I know you will jump back in the group. If you have questions, ladies, please do not be afraid to go ahead and post them when you get the chance to be connected to somebody and they have graciously made themselves available. Honor that and make use of the time. You never know if the opportunity will come to you again. And sometimes we say opportunity doesn't come our way, but the truth is we have seen opportunities come our way, we just haven't capitalized on them. And so I'll add as I close, implement. Do not take for granted what we did tonight, what you have learned tonight. Take at least one point and decide what it is that you're going to stop doing, what it is that you're going to continue doing, and what it is that you are going to begin to do that you have never done before. Make a decision to change something. Don't just learn it and do nothing with it. Otherwise, you'll never move from where you are. I want to wrap up to say We Connect International in Jamaica is here to serve you. It's the platform that made this possible. It's an organization that got started in the United States with several companies that made a commitment and dedicated millions of dollars to doing business with women, because they know the impact that doing business with women has on our communities. Women give back. Women give back to their families. Women give back to the people around them. Women help develop communities. And so they are committed to seeing more successful women-owned businesses in the world. And so We Connect in Jamaica got started because of the vision and initiative of the market lead for We Connect in the Caribbean, who is Mrs. Yannick Page. She's usually with us on the webinar, and she was unfortunately not able to make it to this evening, but I do want to give honor to her, because without her, We Connect would not be in Jamaica or the Caribbean. And so for all of you who are here, if you don't know anything about We Connect, I'm going to post the link inside the group. It is completely free as a woman-owned business to register for We Connect. It is completely free to self-register. Go ahead, if you are a 51% owned or more woman-owned business, go and self-register so you can continue to benefit from what is available to you through We Connect in what we're doing in Jamaica. We have several events that are coming up. We do several more webinars just like this. Do not miss out on them. There is a networking event, a speed networking event that happens this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. at the Ligani Club. I will post more information about it in the group. I will also send an email out to everybody who registered for this webinar. Do not miss the event. You can continue this conversation beyond tonight's webinar. I'm so sorry you won't be able to be there, Claudia. It would have been good to have you there. But the speed networking event happens this Thursday. Please join us. It's going to be great. You're going to meet phenomenal women from all spheres of business and life. You never know what relationships you're going to leave with. I've posted the link for self-registering for We Connect in the group. If you are a woman-owned business, at least 51% or more is a woman-owned and woman-managed business, go ahead and self-register. It's completely free to do so. We would love to connect with you and add value to you as an international organization. You're able to meet and connect with women, not just locally and in the Caribbean, but across the globe. That's it for tonight, ladies. It was a wonderful night. We're going to say goodbye. I will send the replay out in email, and you'll have access to it for 48 hours. Again, thank you, Claudine. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Night, ladies.
Good night.